is starting to offer automated phone calls to give families daily briefings as well.
Increased coronavirus testing will roll out this week across the state. Governor Evers' goal is to reach 85,000 tests a week. The state will be doing this with help from local health departments, the National Guard, and even some local firefighters. Tom DURIAN tells us what this effort will look like.
The exact testing locations have not been finalized, but we do know that Milwaukee and Green Bay are part of the first rollout.
Everybody in Wisconsin who needs a test receives a test.
Health officials say to make that happen, testing across the state needs to expand rapidly. And today we learned plans are being drawn up and could be implemented this week. The state currently has 51 labs that can test up to 11,347 tests a day. But the tests have to be administered, and that's where the major ramp up will be.
The National Guard and local health departments will continue to stand up testing sites around Wisconsin.
Today we are testing civilians to see if they are either positive or negative for COVID-19.
And just like the 1,000 or more National Guard troops helping administer testing across the state, locally, Milwaukee Fire Department personnel will soon be joining the fight.
The Milwaukee Fire Department, they have stepped up and said they're willing to help out however they can.
The fire department tells me that many of their members are uniquely qualified with a medical background to help boost the capacity of the testing sites in the city. In addition to the 5 community health clinics currently doing testing and the drive-through sites from private hospitals, we could soon see more state and local drive-through sites as well.
The goal is to have the maximum impact of the scaled-up testing capacity that we have.
That means at this point, health officials say those that are symptomatic and those who may not have any symptoms but came into contact with someone who was positive for COVID-19 should be the top candidates for a test. Now, this doesn't mean that you can pick up the phone and call the fire department for a COVID-19 test. They will be extra staff at these testing locations. The state says some of these locations could be up and running by the end of the week. Reporting in Milwaukee, Tom DURIAN, TMJ4 News.
Tom, thank you. Governor Evers has also issued an emergency order to make sure that no Medicaid member loses coverage during the pandemic. The order allows for telehealth and other electronic communications with mental health and substance use disorder treatment programs.
As more test results come in, the state expects the number of positive cases to rise. And right now, we are at more than 8,200 confirmed cases. That's an increase of 262 from yesterday. Unfortunately, 340 people have died, up from once on Sunday. There are also more than 80,000 negative tests. Today's percentage of daily positive tests is just under 10%, and that's down from yesterday, which was just above 11%. The race for a vaccine continues tonight. New at 10, we spoke with the GM of Catlin's lab in Madison, where a potential single-dose COVID-19 vaccine will be made.
This feels like you've probably heard it described as a fight against COVID. This feels like we can get into the fight now and actually make a contribution.
Catalan's CEO says that their high-tech facility in Madison is ideally suited to manufacture such a large number of doses.
The state Supreme Court will hear arguments tomorrow deciding the fate of Governor Evers' Safer at Home order extension. GOP legislators accuse Wisconsin's health department of an abuse of power. Republicans want to have a say in when non-essential businesses can reopen. However, a Marquette University Law School professor believes the department is operating within its authority.
It's limited in time. It's limited to the core powers of the public health department, which is to respond to an outbreak of communicable disease, and that this is clearly not a lawmaking at all.
State Supreme Court arguments begin 10 a.m. tomorrow over video conference. Both sides get 45 minutes to make their case before the court.
More than 500,000 people have filed for unemployment here in Wisconsin since March 15th. That benchmark dates for when things started to shut down. That number is nearly 15 times higher than that time in 2019, when over 34,000 filed for unemployment. The Department of Workforce Development Secretary released a statement saying, in part, DWD is adding hundreds of new staff, multiple outside vendors, and working overtime to process and analyze the claims to help us and many Wisconsinites as fast as possible. Well, as part of the Rebound Milwaukee, we're offering resources to help you make ends meet. And still ahead, we break down how you can dip into your 401k early, but there are some restrictions. For continued coverage on COVID-19 from across the state, head to our website, tmj4.com, and click on the Coronavirus in Wisconsin button.
Milwaukee police are investigating a deadly shooting. This happened about 8:30 this morning, just a couple blocks south of 37th and Silver Spring. Police arrived. They found a man there shot to death. If you have any information, you're asked to call Milwaukee Police.
All right, Storm Team 4 now. The cool temperatures settled in today. Brian joining us now. Yeah, who is right with the Storm Team 4 chaser. How are you, Brian?
We picked a spot on a hill by the lake.
Not a good idea?
The smartest thing to, not the best idea tonight. But with the rain that we had last week, the warmth that we had over the weekend, the spring flowers are just blooming like crazy. The trees are starting to bud. But I'm telling you right now, they're shivering as we are because the wind chills are in the 20s and 30s. Good news is we're not going to get cold enough to do some damage to those budding trees. But will we warm up? And is there more rain in the forecast? We'll talk about that coming up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brian. David Crowley is officially the Milwaukee County Executive. Crowley was sworn in this morning outside of his home in Milwaukee. He is the first African-American elected to the county's highest position. Crowley says he's ready to tackle the challenges in the community head on.
Now we know Milwaukee County has a lot of resilient people, which in turn makes Milwaukee County resilient. And that's why I thank you for this honor to serve you. I'm humbled by the opportunity, but look forward to the challenge.
Crowley plans on creating a special office that looks for grants and wants to push community members to respond to the census so that the county can get every dollar possible.
Still ahead on TMJ4 News at 10, how one shop operating under the Safer at Home order is hoping you'll stop in and smell the roses.
Up next, people's finances are hurting in this pandemic, and some are taking their 401k early. We break down the limits that are still on your money. As part of our continued reports on the Rebound Milwaukee, we're offering resources to help you make ends meet.
A change provided by the CARES Act allows you to tap into your 401k early. Alicia Nieves reports on what you need to know before you make that move.
When Congress passed the CARES Act, it approved billions of dollars in direct stimulus checks, billions more in business loans. But it also approved a provision that would allow people to tap into their retirement fund penalty-free.
The important thing for the CARES Act is it gave Americans some additional options. It gave employers some additional ways to help their workforce get through this tough time.
Nevin Adams is with the Plan Sponsor Council of America, a nonprofit trade association that surveyed 401k plan sponsors after the CARES Act was passed. PSCA found that less than half of plan sponsors were moving forward with implementing the legislative change, though some were still deciding. It's important to note that while Congress passed the provision, plan sponsors had the option to implement it or not.
The larger you were as a plan sponsor, as an employer, the more likely you were to have decided already that you were going to take some action. And in the most part, those who decided to take an action were in fact adding these new distribution and loan options.
What were some of the reasons behind why some sponsors, plan sponsors, didn't want to implement this legislation?
They're concerned about giving people all this ready access to that retirement savings money a little too soon and wanting them to take advantage of other options as they've got them available. And I think there's also a concern, if you think about what's going on in the markets, that for participants to be rushing in and pulling money out of that retirement savings at this particular point in time, they would take that loss.
One of the fundamentals of investing is buying low and selling high. Right now, pulling from your retirement fund would be doing the opposite of that. But for some, it has been necessary.
The good news is, at a high level, even though there has been an increase in those volumes, anecdotally, people are not going crazy about it, and I think that's a very good sign.
I'm Alicia Nieves reporting.
So here is your Rebound rundown. Tap into your 401k as a last resort. If your plan sponsor allows it, the normal 10% penalty is waived and taxes can be spread out over the next 3 years. However, there is a cap of $100,000. If you don't want to dip into the 401k, we understand that, but you're still struggling to pay bills, there is help, from mortgage and student loan relief to rent assistance and ways to get on a payment plan with your utility company. For all that information, head to tmj4.com/rebound and click on Making Ends Meet.
Workers returned today to the Patrick Cudahy meat processing plant in Cudahy. Smithfield Foods closed the plant last month for deep cleaning and to put more safeguards in place after dozens of workers there all tested positive for coronavirus. The Cudahy Health Department reports at least 500 employees there have been tested so far. 85 of them at least have tested positive for COVID-19. Storm Team 4 time now. It is a chilly night. It's going to be frosty as we go through the midnight hours. Meteorologist Brian Goddard joining us from the Storm Chaser. After the lovely weekend we had, this is a cold slap in the face, Brian Goddard.
And I'm getting the slap in the face right now. I'm facing northeast with the wind coming out of the northeast off the lake. We are in Mequon. If you know the area, behind me is the Highland House because tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo. Hey, it's Tuesday, so it's Taco Tuesday, a twofer. Nice. All kinds of great Mexican restaurants around southeastern Wisconsin. Make sure you help them out tomorrow during Cinco de Mayo, which would typically be a very big day. We got used to some great weather quickly. Mid to upper 70s over the weekend.